Welcome to Crunanan 2020. This is the start of the summer arts programme for Cork County Libraries and Arts Service. My name is Julie O'Hay and I'm going to be with you today showing you how to make different dens for inside and outside the house. To make the table den you will need 3 double duvet covers or sheets, some heavy books, something to make the pitch of your roof, so an old bottle, a plunger or kitchen roll insert. Something to make the space cosy, so duvets, pillows, cushions and blankets. You'll also need a long handled brush or a long stick, some clothes pegs, and I've also used a space divider, so you'll find out how to make this in my video, Den Building Decor, which can also be found online for Crunanan Óg. So this is our table den. I'm really looking forward to getting stuck in. I'm just putting one on either side, and it doesn't matter if the colours aren't exactly the same or even if they don't match. These ones are as loosely matched as possible. The bigger the duvets or sheets the better, because they can cover a bigger space. But if you only have singles or if you only have a sleeping bag, then that's okay too. So this is the basic shape of our cave, and now what we're going to do is we're going to make it maybe look a little bit more beautiful, or maybe a bit more like a house, and give it a bit more privacy as well. So I'm going to put another duvet on there. We could, if we felt that this was going to fall apart, put a peg here. Little clothes pegs are really handy for building dens, and if we felt it was going to fall apart we could clip it at different parts. Now, I think this is okay. I think it feels pretty secure. So we're going to put another duvet on top, which is going to secure it even more. So let's have a little look and see how it looks. So we're trying to make, this duvet is going to make it look a little bit tidier, but it's also going to offer you a bit of a curtain to have a space that's totally private, that you'll probably need a table lamp or a torch or a head torch or something like that, or even some fairy lights inside to light it. Now, so it's very dark in there. Now, let's look at an option of rolling it up and down. If you have a sweeping brush or a mop handle or a stick that you found in the garden, you can use that. But what we've got is an old sweeping brush. So make sure it's not being used. And what we're going to do is we're going to roll the duvet onto the sweeping brush. Just keep rolling it, and then that gives you a nice way of making the space a bit more public again, because you're going to want to entertain visitors and maybe get a cup of tea or something like that. And if you decide you want a bit more privacy again, all you have to do is drop this down. Now, so that's looking great. So we're just going to put a space divider up here, which will give a bit more privacy, but also it makes the place look really nice and decorative. I just want to put that there, and what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to roll this top duvet back, and I'm going to have to weigh that down. And I think maybe a good thing to use would be books, just on the edge there. And I don't think that's going to go anywhere. And we just hang that so we can't see the books. And that looks great. Okay, so what I would like to do now is make it look a little bit like a house, or maybe like a tent. We'll put a pitch on the roof. So roofs usually look like this. We could use maybe these big fat knitting needles. We could use the insert from a kitchen paper roll, anything really, a little bottle. But what I find works really well is our plunger. Now, is that in the center? I think it nearly is. Just adjust it until you're happy with how it looks. And we'll fold this down this just to cover up any loose bits. And then we also have the option to actually drop that if we want to, or use our sweeping brush to roll it up again. But for now, let's just put it back. It can be as neat or as untidy as you want it to be, because it's your den. So this is our finished den. I think it's looking really, really great. So great that I might actually go in and have a little look. Wow guys, this is really cozy. There's enough space in here for me to lie down and read a book. Probably enough space for a few smaller people to hang out in. That's great. So I hope you guys have a lot of fun making your table den, and then you get a couple of ideas from what we did today. To make the washing line den, you'll need a rotating washing line, 5 double duvet covers or sheets, clothes pegs, and something to make the space comfortable and your own, like blankets, cushions and chairs. This is a really simple space by just using a washing line. So we've put sheets on each side and pegged them together, and now we can make a final wall. And all we do is peg it, peg the walls together, either on the inside or the outside, depending on how you want things to look. Peg this up here, and that's your opening. So that's your doorway, and how you're going to get in and out. Now if you want even more privacy, you can put a duvet cover on top. And depending on how dark or light your duvets are, so we can peg onto here. So depending on how dark or light your duvet covers are, is how light or dark your space is going to be. But at the moment, this is quite light and breezy. It's a nice space that you can read and be protected from the sun. So on a hot day like this, you've got a little bit of shelter. That's a really quick and easy space for you to hang out in, and it's extremely private. What do you think? To make the 3-chair den, you'll need 3 hardback kitchen chairs, 3 long-handled brushes, mops or long sticks, 2 double-fitted sheets, clothes pegs and string, something to make the space cozy and your own, like cushions and blankets. We've also used a space divider and origami fairy lights. I'll show you how to make these in my den building decor video, which you'll find online for Cruinniú na nÓg. So this is our 3-chair den. Will we get started? So this is going to be our 3-chair den. So we literally have 3 chairs, hardback chairs. I brought them in from the kitchen. And we're going to create a tripod with 3 brushes or mops as well. So we have a pitch on the roof. If you don't have one of those, that's okay, or enough brushes, that's okay. We can still just drape our sheets over and it'll be fine. So let's start with our tripod. I've got a yard brush, which I'll stick in there. I've got an old mop. I've got an old sweeping brush. And what we want to do is we just want to tie them off with a piece of string. Is the easiest way, but if you don't have string, try a bit of wool or a piece of rag, whatever you have available to you. And we want to make sure that that knot is pretty secure, because this is going to be your frame or your structure for the space that you're going to be hanging out in. I think that's pretty good. I'll stick those in there. And I'm using 2 double fitted sheets. And what I like about these is that they have little corners on them. We'll use the shorter length for the front and the longer length for the back. And then we get our other corners and we put it over the back of this other chair. Okay, we get our second one, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. We'll find the shorter edge. Put it at the front. And the longer one goes to the back. That really is looking like a tent. And the first thing that I'm going to do now is I'm going to get a cushion and hide that ugly yard brush. And I might do the same for each of the other ones. Now, if you found that the handles were a bit ugly, you could yarn bond them. So get some old rags or wool and wrap them around, make them really fancy. But I think I'm okay with that. And what I'm going to do now as well is put my fairy lights in here. Give it a bit of atmosphere. I've origamied some of those fairy lights. And we'll tuck one chair in there. There's actually loads of space. So the chair at the back, the green one, is acting like a table. So really, you can put what you want on there. I've got the fairy lights on there. Okay, and if we want, we can tie back, or we can make this more of a curtain so that's a bit more private space. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my space divider in, and this is really simple because we're using our chair to hook it onto. It's really simple. It stays put that way, doesn't it? That's great. And then I'm getting my homemade flags and some pegs, and we are going to peg them on. If you don't want the pegs to be seen, then you can peg it from the inside, but I think it looks okay. Now that was a very quick, easy space. Really lovely. It's a little seating space, but again, you could put cushions or duvets in there and use it as a lying down space as well. I think it's looking really great. To make the teepee den, you'll need long sticks approximately 5 or 6 feet long, a piece of string, 2 double duvet covers or sheets, clothes pegs, a tent peg or a small stick, something to make your den comfortable like blankets and cushions. We've also used a ball of rags and bunting. You can learn how to make these in my video Den Building Decor. Now, what a perfect day for making an outside den. So here we are in our garden. The main ingredient for this, the materials you're going to need are sticks. Now these are super long. You don't need anything as long as this, but the taller your sticks, the bigger your teepee and the more possibility of you being able to stand up in it. So maybe something about 5 or 6 foot would be the minimum amount, but if you have something shorter, that's okay too. You're just going to have a smaller space to sit in. I already have my holes marked out, so I'm going to stick my sticks straight in there. And what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and get them in there as deep as possible. I've got 11 sticks. You can decide to have more or less, but for the size of my teepee, it just seemed like a good number. But you can mess around with this. Obviously, you've got to work with what you have available to you. So if you only have 5 or 6 sticks, that's okay too. And one last one. And we leave a bigger space for the doorway so we can get in and out comfortably. Now we want to tie these up together, so we can get either a piece of string or a piece of wool or an old scrap of material, and we're going to gather all our bits together and we're going to tie it off. Now to make it beautiful, what I've done is I've got loads of strips of material, and I've cut these little strips of old stuff, like old material, clothes, whatever I could find, sheets, anything that isn't being used anymore or was going to be thrown out. And I've tied them all together, a little knot, and I've made a big ball, like a ball of wool. You can also use wool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap We can wrap around, we can zigzag, we can kind of cover the space in that way, and that's what I've decided to do. Now you can decorate it whatever way you want. This is just a guide. So we've got quite far here, haven't we? We've got quite high, and we can keep going with that. We can decide to put a doorway in if we want to as well, so start wrapping around these guys at the front as well. So that's what we're going to do now. So we're going to wrap, and we're going to include this middle space now. And so we can duck our heads when we want to get into the space. So we've now fully wrapped and tied off all of our bits of cloth, and I think it's looking great. So don't worry if you haven't got any bits of cloth. Okay, so we've decorated this space with all these little scraps that we have, but if you don't have anything in your house, that's okay. What we can do as well is get a sheet or a duvet cover, and we can very easily wrap up our teepee to also have a nice decorative space, and it'll become a bit more of an enclosed space as well. So let's do that. I've got myself a double duvet, a nice white one, and you can use a piece of string, but I've just got a little bit more rags that I can use. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a corner, okay? One of the corners. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that here, and I'm going to bring the sides around. And you can see the double duvet fits pretty well around this. Now I need to secure that in place. So I'm just going to take my piece of string or my rag, and I'm going to tie it off quickly but securely. Now we can get some pegs to secure everything in place, because the wind has picked up here, and we can put them on the inside if we prefer that they're not seen, or if you don't mind, you can put them on the outside. If you decide that you want a curtain down the front, I actually here have another sheet, and what we can do is we put that in there, and we could potentially have secured it with the other one if we wanted to, but I'm going to peg it. We have a totally enclosed space now, but we might just make it look like we want people to come into it. So now we're going to put a few final touches to our teepee. You can see I've put a blanket and some cushions in there to make it all cozy, but we're also going to decorate it with our homemade bunting. So we'll get our bunting and our tent peg, and we'll tie one side up here, and we will secure this to the ground. We've got some really lovely decorated homemade bunting. I think this is an extremely inviting space for hanging out. Oh, it's actually like a proper tent in here, guys. So I hope you have fun making your own teepee at home, and I'd love to see what you get up to. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed the Den building workshops, and make sure and check out my other video, which is Den building decor. It's also online for Cruinniú na nÓg. It'll give you a couple of ideas and tips on how to decorate your new spaces. I hope to see you guys again soon.